Most women never realize that the way they hug a man communicates far more than anything they could say with words. In that brief moment of physical connection, he often senses emotions that aren't spoken out loud. What's surprising is that women who naturally create a lasting impression aren't following some complicated formula. They simply avoid a few subtle habits that many others unknowingly repeat. Those small habits can quietly weaken attraction before a man has even had the chance to process what he's feeling. Take a moment to think about that. Growing up, we're taught to smile, be confident, and always be ourselves. Those are valuable lessons, but very few people ever explain what a simple hug actually communicates or how it affects someone emotionally. Nobody sits us down and says, "This is what a man experiences when you embrace him. This is what makes him feel welcomed, emotionally connected, or unexpectedly distant." If you've never thought about this before, that's completely understandable because most people were never taught this side of human connection. In this video, we're going to explore 3 common types of hugs that many women give without realizing they can create emotional distance instead of closeness. These aren't mistakes made by uncaring people. They're often made by thoughtful, kind, genuine women who truly like the man they're with. Yet these tiny, unnoticed behaviors can slowly send the wrong message over time. Then we'll look at a 4th kind of hug that hardly anyone discusses. It's the one that quietly lingers in a man's mind long after the evening ends. It's the kind of embrace that stays with him when he's alone the next day, replaying the feeling without fully understanding why it affected him so deeply. Make sure you stay until the end, because that final insight is often the one that completely changes how someone experiences physical connection. Welcome to The Relationship Decoder, where we uncover the hidden psychology behind attraction, emotional connection, and the small moments that shape relationships in ways most people never notice. Before we dive into those examples, there's one important principle you need to understand because everything else builds on it. Human beings often experience emotions through the body before the mind has time to explain them. Many women believe a man first decides whether he's interested based on conversation, shared interests, humor, or chemistry during the date. Those things absolutely matter, but the first moments of physical contact happen on an entirely different level. During the first few seconds of a hug, his nervous system is already gathering information before he's consciously thinking about it. Does she seem comfortable around me? Does this closeness feel natural? Is she genuinely happy to be here? Or is she simply being courteous? His body starts answering those questions almost instantly. That's not exaggeration. It's how people are naturally wired. We process physical signals, body language, and emotional energy much faster than we analyze spoken words. That's why a hug should never be seen as just a casual greeting or goodbye. It quietly communicates your comfort, your presence, your emotional openness, and whether you're fully engaged in that moment. The smallest difference in how you embrace someone can completely change the emotional message they receive. Think about the last time someone hugged you with genuine warmth. You didn't stop to analyze why it felt meaningful. You simply knew they were sincerely happy to see you. Now remember a hug that felt rushed, distant, or obligatory, without anyone explaining it. You sensed that the other person's attention was somewhere else. The exact same process happens when a man hugs you. He isn't consciously judging every movement. Instead, his body naturally responds to the signals yours is sending. Those few seconds carry far more meaning than most people realize because physical touch has its own silent language. Once you understand that language, you'll begin to see why these small moments can shape attraction in ways words often cannot. If this already resonates with you, consider supporting the video by leaving a like. It helps more people discover these ideas, and it's time more women understood how these subtle moments can make such a meaningful difference. Now let's take a closer look at the 3 most common hugging mistakes. The first mistake is what I like to call the automatic pat hug. Almost everyone has done it without thinking. You lean in, wrap your arms around him, and then immediately start tapping his back a few times. It feels harmless because it's become such a common habit, but that small action carries a message you probably never intended to send. Think about when people usually pat someone on the back. It's often when comforting a friend, greeting a distant relative, or ending an interaction politely without much emotional closeness. It's friendly, but it doesn't communicate warmth or genuine connection. A man's body often registers that difference immediately. Instead of feeling welcomed into the moment, he may unconsciously feel like you're keeping emotional space between the two of you. You probably weren't trying to create distance at all. Maybe you felt nervous, awkward, or simply didn't know what to do with your hands, but he can't read your intentions. He can only respond to the experience of the hug itself. Many men describe these moments without even mentioning the hug directly. They'll simply say, "Something felt off." They might explain that she seemed stiff or that it felt as though she was already pulling away before the embrace had even begun. That's exactly how this type of hug is often interpreted. What feels safe and ordinary to you can quietly come across as emotionally reserved to him, even when your feelings are completely genuine. The second mistake is the too quick hug. This happens when the embrace is over almost as soon as it begins. You make contact for a split second and immediately step back before either of you has really settled into the moment. There are countless reasons women do this. Maybe you're in a busy place, maybe you're feeling shy, or maybe you're worried about appearing too eager. Those concerns are completely understandable. The problem is that he usually doesn't consider all those possible explanations. Instead, his mind naturally simplifies what happened. A very brief hug often gets translated into one quiet assumption. She probably isn't that interested. It isn't a deliberate judgment, it's simply how the interaction feels from his perspective. Ironically, many women shorten the hug precisely because they genuinely like the man. They want to appear calm, confident, and in control of their emotions. But from the outside, emotional restraint and emotional disinterest can look almost identical. You believe you're protecting yourself from seeming overly enthusiastic, while he's left wondering whether the attraction is even there. Neither of you realizes that such a tiny moment has already shaped the emotional tone of the interaction. The third mistake is what I call the absent hug, and over time, it may have the biggest impact of all. This is when your body is physically present, but your attention is somewhere else entirely. Maybe you're replaying the conversation in your mind, wondering what to say next, feeling self-conscious about who's watching, or worrying whether you're making a good impression. The hug still happens, but mentally you've already left the moment. Here's what matters. People naturally sense presence, even if they can't explain how. When someone gives you their full attention for just a few seconds, it creates a completely different emotional experience than someone who's simply going through the motions. We've all experienced both, and our bodies recognize the difference immediately. Many women later say they were trapped inside their own thoughts that evening and couldn't fully relax. Then they're surprised when the connection afterward feels weaker than expected. Often it's because he sensed that emotional distance too. He doesn't automatically assume you were anxious or overwhelmed. Instead, he simply experiences the interaction as if he wasn't fully important in that moment. Even if that interpretation is completely inaccurate, it's often the emotional impression that stays with him long afterward. These three habits, the automatic pat, the rushed goodbye, and the emotionally absent hug, happen every single day between people who genuinely care about one another. They slowly weaken connection without either person realizing where that feeling of distance actually began. Now let's talk about the kind of hug that leaves a lasting impression. This isn't about memorizing a technique or pretending to be someone you're not. It's simply about allowing your actions to honestly reflect what you're already feeling inside. When you decide to hug him, let it be an intentional choice rather than something rushed or automatic. You don't need to make it dramatic or overly romantic. Just let your body fully commit to the moment. Wrap your arms around him with enough warmth that he can genuinely feel your presence. Not an uncomfortable squeeze, but enough pressure to communicate, "I'm here with you." There is a meaningful difference between barely making contact and creating a moment someone truly feels. Often, that difference comes down to nothing more than genuine intention. There's one final detail that most people overlook, yet it quietly changes the entire experience. While you're in the hug, take one slow, natural breath. It sounds almost too simple, but it makes an enormous difference. Breathing encourages your body to relax, and when you relax, the other person often relaxes too, without consciously realizing why. Human nervous systems naturally respond to one another. If you're tense, holding your breath, or mentally counting the seconds until the hug ends, that tension is often communicated through your body. On the other hand, when you allow yourself to settle into the embrace for just a moment, it creates a feeling of comfort, safety, and authenticity. That calm presence is what people remember. It's not because the hug lasted longer or followed some secret formula. It's because for a few genuine seconds, your body expressed exactly what your words never needed to say. When you allow yourself to take one slow, genuine breath during the hug, something subtle but incredibly powerful happens. Your body softens, your muscles relax, and that calm is often felt by the person holding you. Human beings naturally respond to each other's emotional state, especially through physical touch. A relaxed embrace creates a completely different experience from one filled with tension or hesitation. That single breath is often the difference between an interaction that feels like simple politeness and one that feels emotionally genuine. It isn't about making the hug longer or more dramatic. It's about being fully present for those few seconds, instead of mentally counting down until it's over. People can sense when someone has truly settled into the moment, and that quiet sense of ease leaves a much deeper impression than most realize. The way a hug ends is just as important as the way it begins. Many people start pulling away before the moment has naturally reached its conclusion. Their body is already moving backward, while the embrace is technically still happening. Instead, allow yourself to remain for just a brief moment longer than your usual instinct. Not long enough to create awkwardness, but long enough for the ending to feel natural rather than rushed. That tiny pause completely changes the emotional message. Instead of seeming eager to leave, you become someone who was fully present until the very last second. When it's time to let go, do it gradually. Let your hands leave his shoulders or back gently, instead of quickly separating as though you're rushing towards something else. The final few seconds are often what people remember most because they're the last emotional impression left behind. Finish the moment with calmness, not urgency. After you step back, don't immediately shift your attention somewhere else. Take a brief moment to genuinely look at him, not with a rehearsed smile or an exaggerated expression, but with the simple warmth that comes from appreciating the moment you just shared. If you truly enjoy being around him, that feeling naturally shows in your eyes without needing to be forced. It's one of the most honest forms of communication because it doesn't rely on words at all. Over the years, many men have described memorable hugs that lasted only a few seconds, yet stayed with them for years afterward. When asked what made those moments unforgettable, they often struggle to explain it. They simply say they felt seen, valued, or as though nothing else mattered for those few seconds. Looking more closely, those moments almost always have the same qualities. She wasn't distracted. She didn't rush away. She stayed emotionally present until the interaction naturally ended. That simple presence became the part they never forgot. The truth is that lasting attraction rarely grows from dramatic gestures or perfectly planned romantic moments. It develops through small experiences that quietly build trust, comfort, and emotional safety over time. A genuine hug is one of those experiences because it communicates sincerity without requiring a single sentence. In a world where so many interactions are rushed and divided by distractions, giving someone your complete attention has become surprisingly uncommon. That's exactly why it leaves such a lasting impact. The people we remember most are often those who made us feel completely present in a moment that could easily have passed unnoticed. It wasn't because they performed something impressive. It was because for a few brief seconds they allowed themselves to simply be there. Those moments accumulate over time and quietly shape the emotional foundation of a relationship far more than grand declarations ever could. The deeper reason many women struggle with this has very little to do with not knowing the right approach. More often, it's fear. Fear of appearing too interested, too available, or too emotionally invested. Many have spent years hearing advice that says showing genuine warmth too early is risky. Movies, magazines, social media, and even well-meaning friends often repeat the same message. Don't reveal too much, keep him guessing, stay mysterious. As a result, women who genuinely care about someone sometimes instinctively hold themselves back. They shorten the hug, create emotional distance, or limit their natural affection because they're trying to protect themselves. Ironically, the very actions meant to preserve attraction can unintentionally communicate the opposite. A man doesn't usually interpret that restraint as confidence. He often experiences it as uncertainty or emotional distance, even though that was never the intention. What many men find most attractive isn't flawless technique or perfectly calculated behavior. It's the quiet confidence of someone who feels comfortable expressing genuine warmth without constantly worrying about how she's being perceived. A woman who can enjoy closeness without overthinking every movement often creates an effortless sense of connection. When men describe someone as magnetic, they're rarely talking about rehearsed behaviors. More often, they're describing someone whose presence felt calm, natural, and emotionally safe. Over the years, I've met countless women who were intelligent, attractive, engaging, and genuinely kind, yet they still struggled to build deeper connections. The common thread wasn't appearance or conversation. It was that during meaningful physical moments, they were trapped inside their own thoughts. They were monitoring themselves instead of experiencing the interaction. As a result, men often describe them as pleasant but difficult to truly connect with because emotional presence was missing from the moments that mattered most. The women who transformed those experiences weren't the ones who memorized new tricks or perfected body language. They were the ones who stopped treating every interaction like a test they had to pass. They allowed themselves to relax instead of constantly evaluating how they were coming across. Once they stopped pulling back out of fear, the way people responded to them changed dramatically. Not because they became different people, but because others could finally experience who they really were. Genuine connection depends on feeling another person's emotional presence, and that's impossible when someone is hidden behind anxiety and self-monitoring. The beautiful part is that you already know what authentic warmth feels like because you've experienced it yourself. You've felt hugs that brought comfort and hugs that felt empty. Your body already understands the difference. The only thing left is giving yourself permission to stop overthinking and trust that natural warmth. So if there's one lesson to carry with you after watching this, let it be this. The next time you hug someone you genuinely care about, make one quiet decision before you step forward. Decide that for those few seconds, you'll be completely present. Forget about performing, analyzing, or trying to create the perfect impression. Simply allow yourself to be there. Hold him with sincere intention. Take one slow breath that helps you settle into the moment and let the embrace end naturally instead of rushing away. Those tiny choices may seem insignificant, but together they create a feeling that words alone rarely can. Sometimes the smallest moments become the ones people remember for years because, for just a few seconds, they felt something completely real. In the end, it really comes down to 4 simple habits. Hold him with genuine intention. Take one slow breath. Let the hug end naturally instead of rushing away. And when you step back, give him one sincere look before moving on. That's all. None of these things require special talent or complicated techniques because they all come from the same place. They happen when you make the choice to be fully present instead of standing emotionally at a distance. That's the part he'll carry with him. It won't be the outfit you wore or the exact words you exchanged. What stays in his memory is that brief moment when you were completely engaged, completely authentic, and completely there with him. Those few seconds often leave a far deeper impression than people realize because genuine presence is something we feel long before we ever find words to describe it. Over time, those moments begin to build on one another. Every interaction filled with real warmth quietly strengthens the emotional connection. Eventually, he doesn't simply see you as someone attractive, interesting, or pleasant to spend time with. You become someone who naturally enters his thoughts even when you're not together. He starts looking forward to seeing you, not because of one dramatic event, but because being around you consistently feels comfortable, meaningful, and effortless. You become associated with a feeling rather than a performance, and feelings are what people remember most. When someone leaves you feeling understood, appreciated, and emotionally at ease, that experience stays with you long after the conversation ends. No perfectly crafted joke, clever message, or carefully timed text can replace the quiet impact of making another person genuinely feel valued in your presence. This is the part that often gets overlooked. So much attention is placed on finding the perfect words, sending the right message at the right time, or knowing exactly what to say to keep someone's interest. Those things certainly have their place, but the moments that often influence attraction the most happen before either person has the chance to think about them. A glance that lingers just a little longer, a hand that doesn't immediately pull away, a hug that feels calm, intentional, and emotionally present. These are the experiences that quietly stay in someone's mind. They're the moments people replay without fully understanding why they mattered so much. They're often what shifts someone's feelings from simple curiosity to genuine emotional investment because they create an experience that feels authentic rather than rehearsed. The strongest connections are usually built through moments that feel natural instead of carefully planned. The best part is that none of this requires you to become someone different. You don't need to memorize complicated strategies or constantly analyze your behavior. Instead, the real change comes from giving yourself permission to stop holding back in the moments that truly matter. Don't instinctively retreat when your natural response is to stay present. Don't become so focused on observing yourself that you miss the experience unfolding right in front of you. Real connection has likely been available to you all along. The only obstacle has been the habit of overthinking and protecting yourself so much that your genuine warmth never gets the chance to fully show. Once you stop getting in your own way, your natural ability to connect begins to shine through without effort. Sometimes something as simple as the way you greet someone can become the beginning of a much deeper emotional bond. If today's conversation made you recognize yourself in one of those three common habits, the automatic pat, the rushed goodbye, or the emotionally absent hug, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Sharing your experience not only helps you reflect on it, but it may also encourage someone else who's realizing the same thing. If you know someone who could benefit from understanding these subtle aspects of connection, send this video their way. These are the kinds of lessons many people never hear, yet they can quietly transform the way relationships develop. And if you enjoy honest, practical relationship insights that focus on real human behavior instead of empty cliches, be sure to subscribe to The Relationship Decoder and turn on notifications so you don't miss future videos. Next time, we'll explore what really happens during the first moments of reconnecting with someone after time apart, and why so many people unknowingly send the wrong message without ever realizing it. Until then, remember this one simple idea: be fully present. Stop watching yourself from the outside and allow yourself to truly experience the moment you're in. You already have everything you need to create genuine connection. Sometimes all it takes is remembering to let it happen.